or I mean,
Okay.
not an email, a message this morning. So I should hoping to hear back before the end of the day today.
All right, cool. And just, I'm just recording this so we have this for later, okay?
Okay.
But basically, yeah. So the first thing you want to do is you want to join the Scranton board. You can join other of the boards around here, Pocono and whatever other ones you want to. But truthfully, for anything in Luzerne, Lackawanna, and a couple surrounding counties, you don't need to, because all of them combined their databases a couple of years ago, the top 5. Dan Taylor, president of the Scranton board, he pushed them to combine databases. So if you list on one, you're seen on all. If you search, you'll see them all. So really, Scranton's the only one you need. If you're doing something downstate below Allentown, we can reactivate my Bright MLS access down there. I let it go because I don't do a lot downstate.
Okay.
If we, really, the only reason I've ever needed Bright MLS is when I had a property up here that was of some value where I thought exposing it to. The weird thing about Bright is it's one database that covers from Allentown all the way down to Northern Virginia. Even though each state has their own licensing, we put a listing there, it's seen all the way down. So if we had a listing that was like, hey, a DC buyer would love this, okay, then we'll activate it, but whatever. So the first thing is you want to get this on board. And one of the first things that you're going to do is you're going to set up a quick search, and you're going to search for the expired listings. So you'll set, and the geography, you can pick whatever geography you want. You can see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I always search all boards. Whenever I'm searching for a comp or anything, I'm searching all the boards, because just like when you put up a listing, if you have a Luzerne County or Susquehanna County listing, it's going to show up on the Scranton board. It's not going to show up on the Susquehanna County. It'll show up in their database. But if someone only searches the Pike County board, they're not going to see you.
Now, a quick question with the MLS for this area, does that cover? Because someone was telling me that they don't think the Scranton board would cover like Hazelton and surrounding areas.
Well, okay. So basically, so the way it works is. So the reason it says boards over here is which board are you searching? That's why I always search all boards, because I'm a member of the Scranton board. Whenever I put a listing up, and I'm only a member of the Scranton board, whenever I put a listing up, it shows up on the Luzerne County database, the Luzerne County board database. But if somebody only searches, if you're looking for a property in Hazelton and you only search Luzerne County board, you're not going to necessarily see my listing.
Okay.
Because I'm on the Scranton board. But in everybody's morning hot sheet, they're getting emails from all the boards. When you search all the boards or you search Zillow, you're seeing it. So I've never had a problem selling my Luzerne County listings by putting them on the Scranton board. Because all the different surrounding boards, I think it's 5 or 6 boards. I think it's Wayne, Pike, a couple others, Pocono, I think. Actually, it's probably all these boards here. They all share the database. They got their data into one single database.
Okay.
So you can search everything in a 50-mile radius, roughly, and everything you post can be seen by any agent in about a 50-mile radius. There are some people that believe you should still, buy additional boards. I've had a huge debate with the board of realtors on this, and their logic of it doesn't make any sense to me. It boiled down to join extra boards so you understand the rules of that board. It didn't. And my whole thing was I pushed them. I said, okay, great. How does that system help our clients that I'm paying $1,600 a year in Scranton, and now I'm paying $1,600 a year or $1,000 a year, whatever it is, in Luzerne County, and more out there and more out there? How do those extra expenses matter? And that's when Dan explained to me, he's like, well, it really doesn't matter because the databases are all the same. So I for years have only kept one board. If there was a board that you started doing a lot of work in or an area and you're like, hey, I want to be part of that board, okay, fine, no problem. The beautiful thing is it's not terribly expensive to add a board because your national and state dues are already paid out of Scranton, so you're only paying their local dues.
Okay.
And the current president of PAR, and I had a long conversation. He's a member of every board across the state because he's a very large brokerage firm. And he's like, I consider it a cost of doing business, and I consider it the right courtesy, whatever. And I said, okay, great, you consider it those things, but on a tactical level. And he finally came around to say, listen, on a tactical level for a small broker like you, it doesn't matter. He's like, I'm at a scale with 150 agents and whatever. I want to make sure I have a footprint everywhere. Okay, that's why you're the president of PAR, because you're looking at it from that side. So you don't have to. I mean, Scranton's the only board you ever have to be a member of. You have to maintain your membership in at least one board. Now, if you ever decided that, hey, I'm really not doing listing work, I'm doing wholesale work, I'm doing something I don't need board access, I might be opening a brokerage firm that's not a board member, so we would just move your license over there.
Okay.
Because weird stupidity, every member of Gorilla has to join a board, but if you're doing all non-board activity, like my management company, Crimson, that's not a board member anywhere. Because my wife and I have talked about it, and we're like, well, Kelly, do you need to list things on the MLS? No. Do you need MLS access? No. Well, then you don't need to be a board member.
Okay, yes, that's really the only reason.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. And Dan and I have talked often about, you know, I won't want to say that the board won't be here in 10 years, but it certainly won't look like this in 10 years. But anyway, so you know, once you're on Scranton, you're fine. But when you're doing a data search, you want to select all of the boards, whether you're looking for listings, whether you're looking for expired, you're looking for comps. Because if a Pocono Mountain, I mean, I've seen this a lot, where a Pocono Mountain agent caught a listing in Luzerne and Lackawanna County, and if I don't search Pocono, it doesn't necessarily. It's weird. Their listing will show up to me if I say, "Hey, I'm looking for something in Scranton." Their listing will show up to me, but there are certain types of searches it won't. So I always search all MLSs.
Okay.
Then you'll search whatever property type you're doing. And what I'm setting up here now is a template for a search of expired properties. So, you know, residential and multifamily are most common for new agents. Status of active is where you change it. You change the status because what you're looking for here. Okay, so let me walk you through what the statuses mean.
Okay.
Active, currently live, agent running it, appointments being scheduled, whatever. Contingent, live, there's a contract in some phase on the property, meaning a contract's been signed, they expect a contract's been signed, it's still active, but they're throwing a flag on the play and saying it's active, but, and if you then you can ask the agent why, and really it's a warning to buyers agents, don't go out there thinking it's just simply an active property. There's something else. It's under contract, waiting for inspection. That's usually what it means, or waiting for appraisal, or waiting for something.
Okay.
Coming soon is they have a contract on it. You can't put anything here that you don't have a signed contract by both parties. But for whatever reason, it's not on the MLS. Best example there is a listing that maybe the rehab isn't done yet. So they've signed the contract and you're promoting it, but it's not ready for showing time, or it's not ready to be whatever. There's some reason it's not quite ready. Pending, it's under contract and waiting. Honestly, pending, contingent, and pending.
Kind of the same.
Yeah, exactly. Like contingent up here and contingent down here is because when they merge the databases, because these will change when you change boards. If you only pick one board, these drop downs will change. But when they merge all the boards, contingent and contingent, there's some duplication basically. So the only categories of this that really most people think about is active, contingent, and pending, and really kind of contingent and pending mean kind of the same thing. There's a contract. There's a buyer in the equation. If you bring your buyer to it, there's a flag on the play saying, hey, somebody else is there first. Coming soon is coming soon. Close is it's done. Money's been paid. Keys have been handed over. It's over. It's closed. Okay. When you're looking for comparable sales, 90% of the time, that's the one you're picking. Because bluntly, we don't care what people are asking for a property.
Mm-hmm.
And where a buyer has paid for a property. When a bank has said yes, and here's your money, and give me my keys, that's the comparable sale. Expired. This is the one I'm talking about right now. These are things where there's a seller had said to an agent, sell my property. And the agent said, great. And then the clock on the deal ran out and it's expired. The contract is over. This is a good one to go after as a new agent because that person wanted to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And I can even, until you get set up, I can even forward you and just send me your email address. I can forward you the expired listings that I get every day that I
Okay.
frankly never run down. And I'll show you how to run them down. Then below expired, there is withdrawn. Withdrawn is for whatever reason during the term of the contract is not over yet, meaning the listing contract. There's no buyer probably, but the parties have said no longer advertise, no longer promote the property. Now, what every seller asks for is cancel my listing. And the reality is we can, as brokers, cancel the listing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no buyer, there's no seller, there's no opportunity for the seller to force a cancellation. And for years, I didn't believe in not canceling properties. I had the attitude of, no, if somebody doesn't want to do business with me, okay, fine, there's the door.
Mm-hmm.
Until I was approached last year, I guess it was last year maybe, by a seller from my wholesale business saying, hey, give me a wholesale offer on this property. I go and I look, and it's withdrawn by Berkshire Hathaway up in Scranton, who was my former broker, Bob Vanson.
Mm-hmm.
And I call Bob, I'm like, da-da-da. He's like, yeah. He's like, that's still our deal. He's like, I never cancel. I said, why don't you cancel? He's like, for exactly this reason. I'm about to make 3.5% off whatever you buy the property for.
Mm-hmm.
Because the seller wanted out, and I didn't let him out of my contract. If I'd let him out of my contract, I wouldn't make any money. He's like, but I perform services for that seller, so I deserve to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Now I kind of take Bob's approach, and he probably told me this years ago when I was an agent for him. And a couple months ago, I had my own client who we delivered an offer to, and they were a couple $1,000s off, and the parties couldn't come to a mind, and she got pissy, and she wanted to cancel our contract. I said, Ashmita, I said, no. I said, I'm not canceling our contract. And now I ended up canceling it later when she threatened to call attorneys. And she's like, why? I said, because I brought you legitimate offers at your asking price
Mm-hmm.
or near your asking price, and you didn't want to do them. So please don't tell me I didn't do your job when look at these offers I brought you.
Yes,
So withdrawn, yeah. So basically, withdrawn is when the parties have agreed it's not going to be advertised anymore, but the agent still wants to keep their toe in the water as being involved somehow. And it's not always. I mean, I'm telling you some animosity stories, but just because it's interesting. But it's not always about animosity. It's just about, hey, we don't. If they say we want to cancel your contract, there's nothing in the PAR agreement that requires cancellation.
Okay.
So we don't have to. So that's what withdrawn means. Withdrawn means it's no longer advertised, and then there's canceled for whatever reason you've canceled it, and that's fine. I mean, I'm still on the fence, even though I understand Bob's logic. I'm still on the fence whether or not canceling contracts is the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're searching for here is expired. So I'm searching all the boards, residential multifamily, expired, and none of the rest of these. You can pick dates, but you're pretty much looking. And the reason the dates don't matter is because really, you'll see this in a second. It's not the first email of the expireds you care about; it's the next email. The first email is going to show you all the expireds for the last year. The next email is going to show you the expireds that happened last night. And that's when you want to start looking at them and say, this might be an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
You can look into contingency, an interesting one to go after as a possible listing. So you're doing that, and then you also probably want to view map and kind of limit your radius, which comes down to a blunt question of, okay, how far are you really willing to go?
Mm-hmm.
In all of our work, and believe me, I've been asked to list things in Pittsburgh, and I have listed. I did one listing in Chickasha. No, further away than that. It was another S word. It was out in out by Centralia, somewhere way the hell out there. And the reality is that you have to warn the client, or you should warn the client and say, listen, I can technically list you anywhere in the state.
Mm-hmm.
but am I really of value to you because I'm so far away?
By the way, exactly.
And he chose yes to the first question. Then when I drove to it like a freaking idiot and realized it's 3 hours away, and it is, no offense to people who live in this town, but it is the end of the world, and it's a dump of a town.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God, because it was a fully rented single for $1,200. He wanted 60 grand for. So I'm like, oh my God, the numbers are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Then I drove out to the town and I realized no. But are we doing a service by servicing someone? Number one, and number two, do we want to do a deal out there? Like, so probably, you're going to be looking probably somewhere, and you can pick by county, you can pick by radius, but you're probably going to have a target, something of some miles around Scranton, whatever your target is. And so you're going to want to get an email of expired listings in that circle, and you can list towns, you can whatever. That's fine. And then you're going to, it's still thinking. Why is it still thinking? That's pretty weird. You're then going to save. Okay, so I found that. You're then going to save as a quick search, save search, save quick search template, both probably. You can also make an IDX search and put it on the web if you want to put it on your own website or our website or whatever, which I'll get to the website in a second. And then you're going to create yourself as an actual customer.
Okay.
Why is this thing so slow? I don't know. And you're going to email this listing to yourself automatically every day. And so what will happen is, wow, this thing is slow. Okay. I'm going to log in here real quick. I'm just going to go my sent emails, and I'm going to look for expired. Oh, it must have expired my expired listings. Okay. So it will. I don't actually use my I don't actually use my expired listings very much anymore. But it will show you a list of, okay, here we go. Expired listings 2025. And we'll just put it on my existing listing. There we go. Save and add subscription.
Doing that will have it sent to you every day then?
Yep, and basically you're going to set it up as a subscription, and you'll follow this process here the rest of the way. There's a problem saving the search. Okay, fine. And then there are other steps which apparently it's giving me trouble on, but when you set it up, if it doesn't go normally, let me know and I'll walk you through it, because it's giving me some trouble here. Let me look. Subscriptions. And then expired listing 2025. Okay, so clearly it's having a database issue. There's some kind of a database issue going on here. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Okay, and contact. Okay, great. So if this is your expired subscription, you're going to edit the subscription, and you're going to add. You're going to see it has weekly, sends out to you every day. Expired random list. And you're going to say this and who's it going to, and you can add yourself as a new contact, whatever.
Okay.
And you'll send me an email when contact clicks the link, enable preview mode. You set all the settings, which are fairly generic, what they are, and then you hit save. And then every night about midnight, it will send that email.
Okay.
And then, that's why it's giving me trouble, because there's an older version of the Scranton database they just discontinued, which is what they're fighting over. But anyway, so I'll show you what it looks like on the other side. I'll just send myself a quick email. Okay, here. Okay, so it will show you an email version of this, showing you what's expired. And the first thing is you take a quick look at the date, and that's why day one doesn't matter as much, because day one is all the expireds from the last however long in your calendar. I think it's usually about a year. Day two, here's what happened last night. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick one. Just, basically whatever expired shows up in your email. And I'm not sure why I'm having such a database issue with it right now, but whatever expired shows up in your email. Actually, you know what? Let me just do a quick, get back to Flex here. I'll just do a quick search for expired. Quick search, and I'll send an email so you actually see what it looks like. Scranton Board of Realtors, fine. Status of expired. And I'm just going to manually email one to myself and hopefully get rid of whatever that database issue is. And it's sending all 123. So then, here we go. So it'll come in, it'll say show view listings, and it will, here's a bunch of listings.
Okay.
And the first thing is you're going to see one, you're going to say, oh, that one just expired, because it'll tell you when they expired. And you'll say, okay, well, let me go see that address. I'll pick this one because it's an actual address. Some of those, sometimes you'll see an address that just doesn't look real enough to be easily searched. Like that is not, it's probably searchable, but it may not be as easily searched because somebody else might put in 1991 space 2049
Gotcha, yeah.
or state route 6. Somehow it's not going to, you go for it, try it. But what you're doing here, the first thing you're doing is you're saying you're going into Flex. You're going from the public version of Flex, which is what you get in your email, going back into your logged in version, and you're saying, okay, is it active again? Because it told you here it was expired, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have 2 copies of the listing in the system and they let one expire, but they kept the other one active, or some other glitch. Frankly, somebody else beat you to it and got it reactivated. Somehow it got reactivated, it was still in the expired listings or whatever. You're like, oh, okay, so now it's still expired. I now know it's still expired. So now I'm going to.
And where does it say? You said that it shows you like the date it was expired. Does it say it right on the?
And that one, okay, so let me just go back to that email. The main way you know it expired recently is that normally it will say expired 3 hours ago, expired 5 hours ago. It would be normally how it says it. For some reason in this email, I think there's got to be a database issue today. But it's giving me issues on that. But usually it will say expired.
Say it right there.
Expired 4 hours ago. It will say it right here on the screen.
Okay.
And if it ends up not doing that when you get these in there, let me know and I'll find out, because like I said, my business is coming from a bunch of different places, so I'm not in here that much.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the other thing is you can know as soon as you search the property, here is your MLS number. So I've searched any version. So I'm searching SC1394 because I want to see the last version. And in here, because you always want to verify everything, you search for date. Status change date. Listing contract date 324. Original timestamp, whatever. There'll be a status contract date. Again, something weird here, but also listing contact date, frankly, 3/07/2024. We know they're only good for 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So the nearest this one had actually expired was 3/07/2025. But usually it'll say status change date. And the reason it might not be saying it here is because the MLS that this comes from, this might come from Pocono where they don't have a status change date. This might come from something else. So sometimes the information is a little different because not all the databases are completely the same.
Okay.
But usually in here there will be a status change date, such as, I'll pull up one of my own listings here. Under contract date, status change date. Usually it's going to show something like that.
Okay.
This is one of my own properties. I leave it in here as an example. So now back to Como. You said, okay, 263 Lake Como Road. I looked, the status change hopefully was like a couple days ago, whatever. Because the problem is if they're too old, number one, you don't know how much of this information is real.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, maybe they sold it and it's gone, maybe whatever. So it becomes, not that you can't go after it, but okay, these people wanted to sell in March. Does that mean they want to sell in June?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. But once you get through that and you look over the property and you say, hey, this looks like it might be something I'm interested in, or not interested in yourself so much as interested in you think you make the deal.
Mm-hmm.
You then go here to owner name, or you go to tax book number, tax parcel number. And you can take this to the county. This is the beautiful thing about the MLS system, is it tells you what county this is. Okay, so Wayne County. So that MLS may not have status change. I don't know. But you could go to the county website and you could look up the owner's name and contact information, which it won't be your contact information, it'll be name and taxable address.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have their name right here.
Okay.
And I'll switch to a Lackawanna property, and don't mind the fact that I'm switching properties here so much. It's the same process, but we happen to pick a Wayne County example, and I don't know Wayne County.
Okay.
And then Luzerne County, unfortunately, this information is harder to find, what I'm about to show you. So sadly enough, Lackawanna County is the best one that around here. For Luzerne County, and when you get a property and you need to do this, I will walk you through it. Don't try to write all this down now.
Okay.
But basically, you will go to county website, and you'll agree to whatever their crap is. And I just happen to know this is one of my clients' company names, so I'll pick on one of his properties, and it will give me the owner's address. So I now know when I go to forewarn to skip trace him, here's Giri Krupa, here's the address where the tax bills are being sent. So I can use that in forewarn, and I won't go through forewarn with you right now, but I can use that in forewarn of tracking down his phone number. So basically, what you've done here is you've taken the expired listing email.
Mm-hmm.
You've found an interesting expired. You've looked up what you can about the property, what the previous listing said. You can also go to the history section and see what went on with this property. It's been listed over the years from 1.7 to 975. It goes oldest to newest. But wow, in basically a year, what I see is, first of all, yeah, in 6 months, is that even possible? No, I don't think so. But just look at the roller coaster of prices, so you can see a lot. And what the last listing person did with it.
So all the different expired is pretty much like everyone who's tried to sell it and just wasn't successful in the contract time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. I appreciate you bringing back to it. Basically, what you're doing with it expired is you're saying, hey, they expired yesterday. They expired a couple days ago. Well, let me look them up. Let me call them and say, hi, I'm a broker, and also my broker is a cat. Hi, I'm an agent. I'm an agent looking to help you list. My broker is also a cash buyer of real estate. You know, that basically.
Okay.
And can we help you? You're driving if they want a cash buy, if the snowball's chance in hell happens and I'm going to buy their property, fine. But you're driving to, hi, would you look? We saw your property didn't sell. Are you still looking to sell?
Okay.
Go secondary and understand, when you are ready to make these phone calls, I can jump on the call with you and we do the doctor method. I'll do the first few, you hear it, then the next few you'll do it and I'll listen, or you can go off and do it. But what you're trying to do on an expired listing is, do they want us to list again? And if they do, or maybe they want to sell for a stupid low price, but do they still want to get rid of the property? And if they do, let's find out about getting an appointment and getting out there. I mean, because especially for you as a beginner, it's getting out in front of these sellers. And I'll go to a few of them with you. I'll mentor with you. You can shadow, whatever. And you're going out there, and what you're going to do before you go out there is you're going to find out what it's worth. You're going to be able to answer them when you go out there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've done here is I've put a check mark in the box, and then I've gone to map, and I'm scaling the map back. And these rural areas, frankly, suck because you normally want to be within a half mile in the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, there's nothing out here but trees, so I'm going to have to go much bigger. And I'm going to have to go with the last 6 months. Also, this kind of a property is going to be a tougher one to comp, because find me something else that looks like, that has this mixture of properties. And, a bunch of buildings and outbuildings or whatever. But basically, what you're going to do is you're going to, and I'll use Grove for the example, is you're going to put a checkbox and you're going to go to map, and I'll walk you through this. I have a much more detailed video on this, but you're going to draw, this is a city community type listing. So I'm going to draw a circle half mile around, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to get rid of the actual property listing itself and go, okay, I want all boards. This was listed on Luzerne County. I don't want to search Luzerne County. I want to search all boards. And I want to search status, which is closed. So I want to see how many properties within a half mile of this one. And I want to search property type. It came up as residential. I want to pick residential multifamily because I happen to know this one's a multifamily. Or maybe I just want to search multifamily, but I'm searching all of my boards. I'm searching my property type, what's a matching property type to what my subject is.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm popping and saying, okay, going over to list. I like to look at list first. And then do you want, then you start looking for things that look similar to yours. You can sort by price. You can sort by total bedrooms, total bathrooms, living area. You can sort by any of these. And I'm going to look and say, all right, they wanted $180,000 for this property on Grove Street. It's a 6-bedroom. It's this, that, the other thing. What's in the 180,000 range? What am I looking at? Oh, well, if I'm still, okay, so I'm down in the 250s and I've got 4 bedrooms, 2 bath, probably a double if it's in a multifamily listing. Da, da, da. And you start trying to figure out what looks like your subject property. What is a comparable subject property? So that when you go and you meet with the seller, you're able to show them this on the computer, or at least tell them, if you don't have a laptop, you're at least telling them, hey, I looked up similar properties in your area and this is what they're selling for. Things that look and smell and sound like you are selling for about this.
Okay.
And so we'll walk you through the details of that, but you're going out there armed with some information. So you're not just visiting to visit.
Mm-hmm.
You're visiting to show them your skills. You're visiting to say, listen, I can help you. Here's what I can do that your former agent couldn't. Or here's why. Because a lot of sellers are burned when they list and it doesn't sell. I mean, that's the reason this woman and I got into a not great situation. And on that other one was because she was not happy. She's like, how could you not sell my property? I said, well, we brought you an offer. It just wasn't the one you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to go back to them and say, hey, you couldn't get it done with the last person. Here's what makes us different as a company. And here's where the market is telling us that your property's worth. They might have had it listed for $300,000, and you're having to go to them and say, well, let's just look at actually what things are selling for. And 300 doesn't seem like it's a likely price. Or whatever. And then hopefully you can, we can walk them through and get a listing contract on the property. And that's the holy grail, and believe me, I'll hold your hand through all of that.
Okay.
But
yeah, I mean, it seems pretty basic once you get the hang of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the reality is you've met enough agents to know that this is not a brain power industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's an industry where it's very much rote. Now, I skipped a few things. First thing is when you first reach the seller, give a verbal consumer notice or something that sounds like it, that says, hey, I'm an agent. I'm not your agent yet, but I'd like to be. But I am a licensee. Just on the phone, hey, I'm here. And if they say, I don't want to deal with agents, I want to do a cash sale. So, well, that's possible too. Our company does handle those. Let's have a further conversation. And then when you meet with them, the first thing out of your hand, besides your business card, is your consumer notice.
Okay.
You want to get the CN signed. Now, if you can get it signed beforehand, great, but most people don't. Most people think the CN is a contract, and it's not. Now, within your Flex sign up, you're going to have zip forms. And I think I showed you that last time. Zip forms is where all the documents live, basically, for PAR.
Okay.
And it's a separate company, but it comes along with the Scranton board. That's one of the reasons when we defaulted over, we stayed with Scranton board, because the Scranton board is frankly a better run board than, and this is largely due to my friend Dan, basically a better board than the Wilkesbury board. For years, the Wilkesbury board did not give any of these features. But, you just have to explain to them that this is not a contract. Now, if they refuse to sign, that is okay. What you then do is I'm sorry?
You have to offer those, so like even if they don't want to sign it.
You offer it, you take the piece of paper, you sign the bottom, and you say, presented on this date, client did not wish to sign, and we still file the scan of this.
Okay.
Because it's our requirement to present it. We can't force the horse to drink the water. But when you get home, I'll show you how to put it in the digital system. But we have record that we presented it. I also, on my cards, and probably will do it on yours too, is I have the verbal consumer notice on the back of the card.
Okay.
So technically, and it's a real tiny technicality, that we've presented the consumer notice the moment we've given anyone our business card.
Okay, that's smart.
I've asked many people at PAR who all thought it was a good idea, and she's like, "Wow, it's a great idea." I said, "Do you think it would work?" She's like, "Don't know, but don't know why it would." She's like, "I've never seen this idea before," and it's in 1-point font. Nobody could ever read the damn thing anyway, but whatever. So when you're out there, you're meeting with the client, and you're saying, "Hey," and if they want to do this conversation over the phone, we certainly can.
Mm-hmm.
Describe the condition of your property. Let's look at what things are comparable, whatever. But you're hoping to get that, especially when you're new, you're hoping to get that meeting. And they're going to have many reservations, especially in the modern era. They're going to have, why would I do that? There are plenty of wholesalers and whatever. I'll get to that one in a second. The most important one is, wow, commissions are expensive and realtor bullshit and all this other stuff. The first one is commissions are not expensive. Historically, statistically, and I don't even know if this is actually still true because the internet and post-COVID and all that have kind of mucked up the game. But over the last 40 years, the NAR statistics are that you sell for 30% more, 25% faster or something. It's basically one of them is 25, one of them is 40. Either 40% more, 20% faster, or 20% more, 40% faster. But you sell for a lot more, a lot faster if you're listed. And you just tell people, listen, point blank is, why is that? Because it's a feeding frenzy. Every other agent wants to bring a buyer to your property. Every bit of sales is about eyeballs on the prize. And so you say it in a very nice way, but if you put it out on Zillow, you can see a certain number of people see it. Mm-hmm. If I put it out on the MLS and everything else, including Zillow, more people see it. Also, do you really want to be the one showing your property and, making appointments and worrying about security, who's coming over, or do you want me to deal with all that? Mm-hmm. So there are some reservations. If they bring up wholesaler or cash buyer, I say, yeah, we can do that for you. But I can tell you statistically, I can tell you directly that you'll make more money listing it than you will from a cash buyer. If you need to move fast, we can make a cash offer. Mm-hmm. If you want the most money, well, let's list it. And then we walk them through. We hopefully get a signed listing agreement. We go from there. So the first thing that I'm going to want to have you do, if you don't get on board with the board in a couple of days, I'll send you my login. Okay. They don't like it when I do that, but it's okay for a couple of days. But the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to get comfortable with Flex MLS and get comfortable with the search features and the other stuff. Some of the other things in here. No, and when people ask for CMAs, I just happen to see that over here. Competitive market analysis. What's my property worth? Well, CMA is a more advanced version of what I did here by drawing the circle mm-hmm. and saying, oh, well, that property looks like mine. And remember, properties are a lot about like, kind, and quality. So my property on 108 Grove Street doesn't look bad. I'm not saying it's bad, but it doesn't look this gorgeous. Mm-hmm. So not necessarily mean it did before the tenants moved in. That's pretty much what I deliver. But it doesn't really look that way anymore mm-hmm. because the tenants have lived there for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, all right, what have I got? Or, or a better example is if my house looks like this one, this kind of normal, house, mm-hmm. and if that's what I'm trying to sell and that's my comp, well, they're not really similar to each other. The bedroom and bathroom mix might be the same, but just shape-wise, front yard-wise. I'm not saying that is a dollar effect, but it's definitely something you look at. You say, oh, well, that one doesn't, this house has no yard. This house has a great yard. Mm-hmm. If they're identical in every other way. So you're looking for reasons, and at this level, it's an approximation. It's being able to show your client, and I like to show it to them live. I like to be like, hey, you know your neighborhood. You see this one? This is what they sold for. Mm-hmm. And one of their favorite things is, well, I know my neighbor sold for $350,000. Oh, which property? For anthracite. Well, sorry to tell you, unless a sale went on that my system doesn't know about, 6, 12, or 24. This is what it sold for.
Mm-hmm.
And the more, and this is not at all confrontational, this is informational. That's what you are. You're their resource.
Gotcha.
And then flipping the script with buyers, and you can start today looking for buyers. And, whatever, flipping the script is the buyers are looking for something, whatever. They're looking for something in their buy box. Now, when you're signing up with the board, you want to get your electronic key card, your electronic lockbox, ELB. Not the actual box itself, but your access to that database. And when they sign you up for that, you want to have them what's called co-op you into all the surrounding counties that you think you might do work in. The ELB system is very county based. If you get an ELB authorization for Lackawanna County,
Mm-hmm.
and then you come to show something in Wilkes-Barre, your ELB will not get you in.
Okay.
So when you're, in Joyce and whatever, I don't know if it's still Joyce's handles it up there, but they'll know what you mean, and just pick all the counties. I mean, for me, I only have Luzerne and Lackawanna, but I don't do a lot of buyer business, and what I do is pretty much here.
Okay.
I know Ryan has all Luzerne, Lackawanna, Wayne Pike, because he didn't do a lot of MLS stuff, but when he does, that's kind of where he's at. And what that is that's an app on your phone, and if you were here, I'd show it to you. But basically, you walk up to those big blue lock boxes. Now, I don't use them. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
get something in, I use the cheap rolly boxes because I don't want to deal with an out of count agent who can't get into one of my listings. All this, the ELBs are wonderful. They track who was there, what time they were there, when they put the box in. It's a great system.
Mm-hmm.
But you also don't want to be, you're out with dinner with your family and someone's doing a showing at a listing and they can't get in because the ELB won't let them in.
Gotcha.
So like I just, as a broker, we can get them if you like them, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But as a buyer, you're looking to find, with buyers, you're looking to find out what your buyer is looking for and can afford. And here's what you do then for them is you set up same search system we did before. You set up a search and you add them into your contacts database. And this is the more contact management. And you want them in the CRM, and I'll show you the CRM a different day, but you want them in the CRM, but you want them in here. You want them in both.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they don't talk to each other. And you can give them a portal. Some people turn theirs off because they're annoying. And this will set up, they'll automatically get daily emails of their search criteria. You'll put their search criteria in here. I'm looking for multifamilies and music and whatever their circles are. You'll set up a search and you'll connect it to the contact, exactly like we just did for the expireds.
Okay.
And so as soon as they meet with you, as soon as they reach out to you, you can say, hey, give me your name and email address and I'll set this up for you. And here's where the world gets a little weird. Yes, you should have a consumer notice signed. No, many buyers won't sign it. That's why you use your digital signing software, your DocuSign. You probably will need a DocuSign account. Talk to the board. They have a great discount on that.
Mm-hmm.
Or another digital signing software that also talks to Flex, but for $120 a year, it might just be easier to use DocuSign than trying to figure out which other ones talk to Flex.
Mm-hmm.
But however, and I do have some, if you don't want to use it automatic, I do have some signing software that I've already paid for you can use. But when we get there, we'll get there. But you want to get them a consumer notice. They may not sign it, but at least you've offered. And you want to try to get them onto signing a buyer agency agreement, which almost none of them will sign. Okay, so residentially more often, yes. Commercially, investment-wise, no. Because they don't want to be monogamous, basically. Mm-hmm. They want to take the deals wherever they find them. So you'd love to get them on a buyer agency agreement, but they're probably not going to do it just to get your emails. So you're pretty much putting whoever you want, whoever you can get into this database. If you get them a consumer notice, great. If you don't, fine. If you get them in BAC, great. If you don't, fine. before you go out, when you go, either before you go to the property or when you're at the property, here, please sign the consumer notice. No consumer notice, just scribble out, and that's fine. We can live without that as long as you present it.
Okay.
Buyer agency agreements, the MLS under that new rule with that scandal a year or so ago, you're not supposed to go on site without a buyer agency. When you have a buyer, I'll talk to you about that, and we just simply make it specific to that property. Because most buyers don't want to give you any kind of exclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
The board wants to make sure, because of the modern commission structure, that you're covered. Now, were you watching when all this scandal stuff was going on a couple of years ago with the commissions?
I think so. Yes, I actually remember that.
All right. So basically, what it means is, and this did not change a damn thing in Pennsylvania law,
Mm-hmm.
but it changed everything for NAR nationally, because apparently some agents weren't doing it right, and apparently some states didn't have the same rules. When we're doing a listing, and this has always been true, we cannot quote the listing commission. We can agree to not work for that commission. I had a client who wanted to list $1 million property, and he only wanted to pay 1% total for both sides, buyer and seller agent. And I respectfully said, not going to happen. I don't care your property is $1 million. I'm not working for 1%, actually for 0.5%.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't force them. We can't say the industry requires you to have a 6% commission. It doesn't. It's not true. And they're also on the listing side not required, never have been, to pay a buyer's agent. It's always been assumed 6% split evenly. It's also not required to split as even. When talking to your buyers, so all of that in that scandal and lawsuits and penalties and a bunch of BS.
Mm-hmm.
Comes out that when you're meeting with a buyer, on the buyer agency agreement, it says, how much is the buyer agent getting paid? And you tell your client, you explain to your client, hey, listen, you're promising to pay me 2.5%, 3%, whatever we agree to. It's usually 2.5%. If the seller contributes it, I won't charge you. I need to make 3%. If the seller contributes 3%, you don't pay me anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason they want BAC before you meet, is because there's no rules anymore. Not that they really ever were, but there's no rules anymore on how you're getting paid.
Okay.
So they want to make sure you and your client have come to a meeting of the minds. Now, technically, you're supposed to get it before you show a client a property. And there is a reason to not do that, which has everything to do with you might be dealing with someone who's spying for the state. And yes, that happens. But in actuality, if someone says, I don't really want to sign a buyer agency agreement until after I've seen the house, that's a coin toss for you.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not, if it's something that fits in. I mean, again, you're a beginner now, so to get you out to as many properties as possible, probably a good idea to just go ahead and do it. Make sure you make the offer a couple times. Say, hey, it's not committal, but I'd really like to whatever. The second thing is that basically you have to decide if it's worth it. Personally, for me, if they're not willing to sign a buyer agency agreement, I'm not getting my car because they're not that serious.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I require, and again, this is it depends what your time availability is or whatever. I'll do anything electronically without any proof of anything. Is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
But you want me to put my butt in the car and make an appointment and deal with scheduling a showing or whatever? You're going to sign a BAC,
Mm-hmm.
agency contract, and you're going to show me proof of funds. Whether it's a bank letter of pre-approval, whatever it is, you're going to show me something that shows me you're real and you're ready. And you're not just doing this because the Than Merrill Real Estate Training School tells you to find an agent and go see houses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't do both, I ain't getting in my car. And whether again, you're a beginner, you might do a little bit differently, but those are my rules. So to recap, what all of this sort of was is you're going to set up a search for expireds.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get that search sent to you on a periodic basis. And you're going to skip trace. those buyers. And when you start getting the expired listings, let me know and I'll show you how to forewarn.
Okay.
And then when you get buyers, you're going to put them in here and you're going to search for them. And you're going to look, because it's going to send you these searches every morning, and you're going to look at the emails it's sending to your clients. And you're going to scan that list, and you're going to have your client list in your notebook or your CRM or both. And you go, okay, Jose is looking to do this. Jose is looking to do this. Is there anything out there that meets Jose's requirements? And I'm just looking for a specific. Okay, that did come in. Okay, fine. I gotta send that out if her call is over. All right. So Jose's looking to do this. Blah blah blah. Does anything meet Jose's requirements? And the other reason you're going to use our CRM or your own, but also keep your own notebook, is check in with Jose every once in a while. Check in with your buyers every once in a while, even if you don't have anything for them. Say, hey, what's going on? Da, da, da. Just thinking about you, seeing how we can maybe do some business. Is there anything else you're looking for? Should I expand what you're looking for? Whatever. Mostly so they don't forget you.
Mm-hmm.
And also remind them that when, if they're approached some other way, hey, if you find something on your own, I'm happy to work with you to reduce commission, or maybe not a reduce commission depending on your relationship. If you find something on your own, I'm happy to represent you and to help you with it and give you all the data you need.
Mm-hmm.
I would just want to be part of the transaction. I have a guy now who we work together for, and we probably actually haven't done any transactions in 2 or 3 years because he does most of his stuff independently.
Mm-hmm.
But he will still call me every once in a while and say, hey, Steve, I need you to run this down for me. And of course, you're going to be my agent on it. Like 90% he's independent now. He's just working with wholesalers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, the point is, hey, if you find something from a wholesaler and you want an actual person to represent you, I'm here.
Gotcha.
Because this is very much a relationship business.
Mm-hmm.
That is very much, it's all about the people, basically. So that's kind of a quick overview of your initial bath and what Flex MLS does, and what you can, and sort of how you can get your business set up.
Okay.
And any questions?
No, I was writing everything down, so I'm pretty sure you've covered everything that I was thinking.
All right, and I'll just end the stream and I'll send you the link here so you can have it.